Jeff Matthews, Zach Pugh. It's crunch time.
And we welcome you. It is crunch time here in the studios of 91.9. Jeff Matthews, Zach Pugh joins me as always for this season, and it is an exciting time for sports. A lot of sports going on over the past weekend. NFL had quite a night, and then also on top of that, U.S. takes home the Ryder Cup. Some high school football happened this past weekend. Looking at some of the Austin Peay football as well. So we're going to jump right on in, and also, first time having a special guest in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, Blaine Keller joins us to talk a little high school football to start us out.
Jeff, Zach, it's great to be here. Thanks, guys.
Dude, Blaine, happy to get you into the studio. Finally, it's taken us. We tried to get you in that first week we did the show this year, but things got a little hectic for us in the production room. But you know what? Hey, we battled through it, and now we're here. But I should say, usually we start this show off, Zach, as you know.
Yeah.
Zach, Blaine, how was your weekends?
Blaine, since your first time being here, I'm going to let you kick that off, all right?
Busy weekend.
Okay.
I was too busy to even catch the Austin Peay game.
Oh, my.
Wow.
Catching up on high school sports, not only in Montgomery County, but in Robertson County in the mid-state, trying to figure out what's going on all across the region.
Oh, yeah.
That took up my entire Saturday. And then when Sunday rolled around, I just laid in bed for 4 hours, got to the 4 o'clock games and started watching those. Really low-key on Sunday, but busy on Saturday.
I like to hear it. Zach, how about yourself?
Man, great weekend. A lot of new stuff happening in general. I got to see some great football and some history as well. We'll get to talking about that later. But other than that, man, it was an awesome time. How about yourself?
It was pretty good. I actually, this past Sunday, I went and saw my mom and my sister. We watched the game together, which was always nice to do. Got fully moved into my new apartment. That one took way too long to do. We were supposed to do it in one day. It took us 4.
Another panel.
I hold no blame for that, just so if my roommates are hearing.
Sure.
None of that was my fault. But let's go ahead and jump right into some football. I'm going to go ahead and read off some of these scores now. We do not have a graphic for this week, but that's okay. We'll battle through. Clarksville High School 38, Northeast 19. Clarksville Academy 54, Fayette Academy 14. Montgomery Central 14, Creekwood 7, Nashville Overton 35, Clarksville Northwest 7, Shelbyville 47, Kenwood 14, and then Springfield 14 and Rossview 7. Now, Blaine, because you are our special guest, and I'm going to go ahead and just announce you as a high school football correspondent. Man, what's going on in Montgomery County football?
When you look at it as a whole, it's almost a down year. But there are still some surprises. We were talking a little bit earlier. Montgomery Central 6-0 on the season.
Huge deal.
Big deal here in the city. They're probably the best team in the city, whether some of these schools want to admit it or not. And
True.
Clarksville Academy off to its best start since 2012.
And they have a new coach too.
Yeah,
Clarksville Academy, brand new.
Scott Murray, year 1 from White County, I believe.
Okay.
Really turned the program around a little bit with some baseball standouts. Cooper Wallace, the quarterback there, he hasn't played since 8th grade, but he's filled in nicely. As a junior, they've had a good start to the season. Like I said, best since 2012. But you look at it, and their schedule might be a little bit of a cupcake on first glance. This region schedule here on the latter half will kind of depend on how good that season turns out.
I think there's a lot of when it comes to high school football, it's kind of hard to kind of label a team good or bad. And I mean I say it's hard to do that. You can look at their record and you can say, well, okay, yeah, they've won this many games or whatever. But when you really look at a team in the high school world, I mean, you could have an absolute stud sitting at quarterback who can throw dimes all day long, can find his receivers, can look at every single target and make a decision. And then you have somebody who's a little bit more not so technical, not able to do some of that. It's kind of more of like a gunslinger, kind of like a Brett Favre, someone like that, who just goes out there and throws it like that. Man, Blaine, who do you think, I don't want to ask you who's the best quarterback in Montgomery County right now, but I mean, is there a quarterback out there that has stood out to you the most or who has made progress over the past year?
Well, I think when you look at it on paper, the guy who would step out is Davin Geringer for Clarksville. Unfortunately, a baseball injury has left him out for the whole year.
Oh, no.
So Clarksville's sticking with the Wildcat this season, hence their 4-2 record.
Wow.
Outside of that, Northeast has a 2-star in Jaden Puig, but Puig was benched last week for Brandon Jackson. So you kind of look around and, Montgomery Central has a 4-year starter in Logan Sykes, a really developed guy, but at the same time, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
And then fighting, you touched on injuries a little bit in high school. injuries are crazy because, I mean, like you talked about, you can have a student who plays football and then gets injured playing a different sport in a different time of the year and leaves them out like that. I mean, for high school specifically teams, how hard is it to manage players in that respect?
Yeah, I think it's not it's definitely not an easy thing,
No.
especially around here.
Right.
You play some really tough teams in especially Region 7-5A. You know, you got to go to Springfield. You got to play Henry County. Just those two teams alone are physical enough to take out 2 or 3 of your best starters.
I think you'd probably know more than I do it on this, but I think one of the bigger teams, I might be a little biased that was able to get a win. That Rossview was able to take down that Mount Juliet game just a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah,
where Rossview was able to take down Mount Juliet, and Mount Juliet was, at the time was, I think,
undefeated.
was a favorite to
Yeah.
make it to the state championship. I mean, huge for this Clarksville area. Talk about, looking at it from, our shoes, looking at it from student reporters or however you want to label us. We see these teams who aren't necessarily top tier in the state of Tennessee, but when they have those top tier performances, how awesome is it to see that and be able to watch a city kind of get behind a team like that?
I think it's really something special, especially whenever you kind of look at the other sports around in Clarksville. You see basketball and you see baseball have really nice environments, and then football's kind of lacking.
Right.
But whenever somebody steps up, it's nice to see for at least a little bit that fan base rally around. Some names that come to mind, Northeast last year, running back Jawan Harris had 10 touchdowns, decided not to play this year. Northeast is 1-5. Rossview, 2-4 this year, had Devontae Phillips last year. He transferred to Davidson Academy. He's now got 15 touchdowns, leading the mid-state through 5 weeks. There are some really solid players, and it's great to see them perform in that way. It just comes down to them staying in Clarksville.
Right.
And
then, yeah, that's a true statement. Now, looking at the Clarksville pool of football that we have, this is going to be my last question for you, Blaine. What do you feel like, we've already talked about teams being, 6-0, having some great starts this season. Out of the teams in Clarksville, who do you think has the best chance to make it deep into the playoffs?
I think right now, if you were to label out 2 teams, you would say Clarksville and you would say Montgomery Central.
Yeah, Clarksville
all right.
looks pretty good on paper just from the score.
Clarksville's got a good record. They've got, like Clarksville Academy, a little bit of an easy non-region schedule. But, that could definitely help when getting into the postseason and trying to get a little bit of momentum. Rayshawn Bowling, Jamar Carnell are great Wildcat quarterbacks. Whenever you're going to dominate on the ground like that, you're going to want to have 2 good guys to do that. And Montgomery Central, you talk about thunder and lightning running backs. That's thunder and thunder with Cade Davis and Andrew White. 5 guys on the senior, 5 guys are seniors on the offensive line. They are a dominant team. They are a great defensive team. And I think, they have a chance in 4A, if not to just make it out of the first round, but maybe go a little bit beyond that.
Well, only time will tell. Blaine, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate you getting into the studio. Hopefully we'll get you back in here later on in the season.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, Blaine.
Thank you, man. Hey, Jeff, man, moving on to the next topic. I know that we have Austin Peay to talk about.
Austin Peay comes out of last Saturday's previous game against Eastern Kentucky University. We ended up walking out losing that game, 27-35. 3 interceptions from Ellis, 27 of
55 is what he's done. 298 yards and 1 touchdown. Just that amount of turnovers, man, that's going to cost you a game.
Yeah, you said it right there, the turnovers. The turnovers is really what drove it home for EKU.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was a lot of times that Austin Peay had great momentum. Felt like they were moving the ball well, felt like things were going correctly.
They were up in the second quarter.
Yeah, and then it just seemed that there was just something that kept making it to where they couldn't get the ball into the end zone.
The wonder is halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
If Austin Peay made the right adjustments, they would have come out this game. So you wonder if Eastern Kentucky made their adjustments properly to be able to defend that, or what happened here, because something communication-wise didn't line up for Austin Peay to continue that game.
We've also talked about this before. Austin Peay's depth in that offense is just insane. You have so many players: Benico Harley, Ahmad Tanner. I can see here a name: CJR Evans.
Tanner had 20 carries, 99 yards.
Yeah, see what I mean?
And 2 touchdowns.
Crazy.
I mean, you've got Hartley. Hartley's coming out making 9 receptions, 136 yards off 9 receptions.
There's
and a touchdown.
400 total yards in offense for the Austin Peay Governors this past game, which is a good amount of yards. I mean, that's a great game.
Should win you the game.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
scoreboard didn't reflect that.
Yeah.
But I think if we're looking at it, I mean, I think it's just one of those ruts that they get in where it just seems to, they'd move the ball a little bit and then next thing you know, they'd, lose it. It's just one of those bad ruts where that momentum shift just continuously goes on throughout the game.
I mean, it's part of it. We both know how the game of football goes. Any given Sunday, any given Saturday, depends on when you touch the field. So, any person can take you out at that point in time. So we've seen those moments where teams that aren't supposed to be in a game are in a game.
That's right.
Like in our NFL moments. So, but looking ahead, we got Austin Peay against Tennessee State University. TSU having a lovely time with their brand new coach, Eddie George.
Eddie George coming to town over here in Clarksville, Vegas.
Wonder if I can get an autograph.
I don't know, maybe. Just me in the booth, like, can I get your autograph?
Right. Have a giant sign.
Eddie! Everybody just wears their Titans gear. No one wears Austin.
No one's gonna wear Austin Peay gear. No, it's all gonna be like throwback Titans jerseys.
It's just Eddie George.
It's Eddie George Day.
Eddie George shirts with his face on it. I think that's what we got to do.
It's not even
for him coming into Clarksville.
They're playing a football game. Oh, I thought we were just meeting Eddie George. I just
thought it was a meet and greet. Didn't know.
Thought it was a meet and greet.
But no, I am definitely excited to see that game because it also the TSU game is also an opportunity for the Governors to kind of see an OVC team.
Yeah, it's our first OVC play. It's TSU's second OVC game itself. They're 0-1 right now on the record for TSU. Athletically, TSU looks great. I mean, Tennessee State looks amazing athletically. We had talked about this earlier, that receiver-wise, that the athleticism they have just to get up and go get the ball is amazing.
Yeah.
It seems like their problem might be more getting the ball around,
right?
From what it seems like, and they've played some pretty decent teams. So they're 1-3 on the record right now. Austin Peay's 2-2. So you've got to wonder, hey, how are we coming into this game after a loss? I think honestly, it's homecoming week. Austin Peay's going to come in and they're not going to care it's TSU. Or that it's Eddie. They're just going to play like they're supposed to.
Exactly, and I think that's one thing that Coach Walden is really good at is getting his players to play Austin Peay style football and not having to worry about catering to another team's play style.
And you can't come into a game going to try to cater to everybody because if you try to cater to them, you're going to lose the game, which possibly could have happened at the EKU game. So you never know. I mean, if we started catering to their offense and not playing our game, then that's probably what caused it. So.
The world just may explode with that one. But I think Austin Peay really I am actually really excited for this TSU game because one because it's an OVC matchup, and two because this is kind of I'll go ahead and say it this way. I think the Ole Miss game, most people kind of understood what that game was going to look like.
If you didn't, you weren't watching the right game.
Exactly. However, coming into this week after we have a game against EKU, now we get to see Austin Peay kind of coming off of a equal caliber team that has I don't want to say equal caliber, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Maybe more on the playing field for Austin Peay.
Yeah.
And we finally get to see a team coming in and after a loss against a team like that into an OVC game.
You've got potential here. I mean, as you said, I don't know if I would describe it as equal opportunity per se, but I would say that it's two teams that are somewhat on the same playing field from what it consists of. They're still in the same conference. We haven't moved to ASUN yet. But TSU's going to be stuck in the OVC regardless. I don't think they're making a move or anything. So it's kind of one of our last chances to really.
I didn't think Austin Peay was going to be leaving.
Well,
to be honest with you, that one came to a shock to me, but I can't imagine TSU leaving. I think you
got a couple years.
Yeah, I think so.
Eddie's going to have to get that program really humming before. George has got to get his placemats going beforehand.
He's got to figure something out, man.
1-3 record on a brand new coaching staff. That's rough, man. That's a real rough time in college football.
All right, let's go ahead and move on over. We still have football left to do. We're going to get to some baseball and golf here in a few moments, but let's talk more about last night. Dallas Cowboys took down the Eagles. The Dallas Cowboys took down the Eagles.
I heard the first time.
Just had to say it again, just so that way I could,
Hey, first place in your division. Congrats on that one.
It's not hard. in that division.
Now when you've got Washington and New York with you,
Right, exactly.
Yep,
It's
yep,
kind
yep.
of the expectation is
is either you or Philly.
correct.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's really and what's even worse is Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, and usually it looks like both teams are 8-8 and they're fighting for that number 1 spot. I feel like that happens way too often.
Last season, one of them made it to the playoffs as 7-8. I'm pretty sure, or 7-9, something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like
Something like that.
Yeah, it's not supposed to happen, but it did.
Not supposed to, but
Yeah.
it did. But last night, Dallas Cowboys did win 41-21 over the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was kind of it was a fun game to watch. I enjoyed watching it thoroughly, except for the fact where the point where Ezekiel Elliott kind of left. Well, it looked like he left Dak Prescott high and dry, and then Dak Prescott just gets sacked in the backfield. It was in the end. It was towards the end zone.
I saw the Fletcher Cox fumble recovery
Yep.
touchdown,
Yep.
which could have been a potential block as well from a running back that just happened to walk away. So I think I know what you're talking about there. Zeke's got to step into that blocking form if he's going to continue
I
to
have
do
to
stuff.
say he's
I
3-point stance, baby.
I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what it is, but he's got to step into that and
Well,
he's got to stop him.
You know, and it's actually funny. We were talking with Blaine. I want to say maybe 2 years ago. I don't know if he even remembers this conversation, but we were talking, and it was one of. It was during Zeke was brand new to the Dallas Cowboys. It might have been the season after his
a little
rookie
longer
year.
than 2 years ago. Then, if
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
a true
case, probably
statement.
more like 4 or 5.
No, it had to. No, it wasn't that long.
Because
ago.
he's on his new contract. So
Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But this conversation did happen. Anyway,
Yeah.
Tony Pollard, who is the secondary running back for the
Backup,
Dallas
yep, second
Cowboys,
string.
had a great game.
Yep.
And I remember talking to Blaine, and I told him, I said, man, I think Tony Pollard could outplay Ezekiel Elliott. And Blaine acted like I was lying and making a fit, but I was being dead serious. I was like, no, hear me out.
he looks good.
Tony Pollard has some moves, and he could do it. And so far this season, Tony Pollard has been outrunning Ezekiel Elliott.
I mean, I think when you see Zeke on the field, you just expect him to be there. You expect him to run.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He had the amazing rookie season,
Yeah, feed Zeke.
and then everybody got tapes on him. And now it makes it a little harder.
I was talking to somebody about, and we'll flip on the opposite side real quick to Philly before we move on to the next thing for NFL. Philly, Jalen Hurts. Hurts can be great in the NFL, but the problem with Hurts, and this happens with mobile quarterbacks that we notice, even though Hurts wasn't that mobile last night, the problem is that usually when you get tape on these guys, they're done.
True.
They've got to expand their game. They've got to start doing stuff. And right now, I mean, Hurts looked like a rookie last night. I mean,
He didn't look clean, I think is what a good way to put it. He looked a little shaken. He looked a little nervous. I don't want to say nervous, but I think that might actually be an accurate depiction.
whatever's happening on that offensive playbook needs to change to
Yeah.
better suit his
Uncomfortable.
weaponry.
I think he looks
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
he was not comfortable with that system.
There was just a lot of times where Dallas would get pressure, and it seemed like either he wouldn't know what to do or he was slow to getting to where he was supposed to be.
It's probably the second-hand thing. Cause,
I think so,
if
too.
If we think about this, he walked into this season, I know that he walked in thinking he was a starter, and they've got people behind him to be able to help him.
Right.
But the thing is they're a new coaching staff. You know, it's yet another new coaching staff time
Right.
for us, and that's a team that's just not what they were in their glory days. I mean,
No.
a team that had won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, something like that.
Something.
And now you've got this team decimated, and that's what happens. We've seen it. Unless you're the Patriots, we've seen it time and time again. Or Tom Brady.
It feels good to know that the Patriots
Oh, I can't wait for. I can't
Don't
wait
have Tom Brady
I cannot
anymore.
wait for Sunday night. Sunday night's game, for anyone who doesn't know, is Bill Belichick, New England Patriots in New England against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady.
It's going to be amazing.
And I
time.
hope Brady drops 50 points on Belichick. I'm calling it now. I hope for it.
I would say probably around 37, but yeah,
Probably
it's still a large amount of
You're
points
right,
going up
37,
against going up against the Patriots. Definitely probably going to happen. But let's go ahead and move over to some more NFL.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the Ravens
Yes.
breaking a kicking record.
I have said this for years, that Justin Tucker is considered, in my opinion, one of the best NFL kickers of all time.
He's pretty darn close.
He's considered one of the most consistent in NFL history.
Right.
Now he owns the longest field goal kick.
Right.
66 yards. I watched that thing happen.
Now, does he own it, or did he get the assist for it? Because I'm pretty sure it hit a crossbar.
I mean, it counts.
Pretty sure it hit the crossbar.
What was that? Win is a win? Isn't that what it was? Might not be clean.
Something like that. All I'm saying is caught a little forward bounce on that one.
He definitely got some luck on that. He's probably missing his next 3 if he tries that again.
Oh yeah, I was about to say. But hey, needless to say, he's in the record books.
Let's forget the delay of game that was not called right beforehand. That should have happened.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about any of the bad stuff about
nothing
it.
that I've heard on ESPN and SportsCenter already this week.
But no, I thought it was super cool that he landed that kick. I mean, the amount of leg muscles that you have to have to put that ball
with a little crow step that he does
yeah,
too.
I know.
Like, oh man.
And then the record was almost, I don't want to say almost, but
yeah, it was almost broken. No,
I guess you could say it was almost broken
by the
same
guy
day.
who had it initially set, which was Prater. Prater lined up for a 68-yard field goal, missed it by 2 yards. And it had the leg for it. I mean, he looked like he had it. But,
however, he might have missed the record-breaking field goal on that one.
But he did make a game.
But what he did do is he also gave the longest TD run in NFL history, which was 109 yards.
Yes, it is.
I'm blanking on the guy who ran it.
It's Jamal. I can't remember the last name.
That's okay.
He plays for Jacksonville.
He plays for Jacksonville, right.
And he's not he's like a 5th string wide receiver. That's I
think so. But yeah, he
sees the field usually in special teams.
He was able to catch the field goal below the crossbar and ran it back 109 yards for a touchdown. Jacksonville still ended up losing that game. Needless to say, 2 huge NFL records broken the other night. Still incredible to watch.
And I've seen a lot of different moments as a fan in general for Baltimore, but I will say one of my top 5 sports moments now, watching that live on television, seeing that hit the crossbar and counting 1, 2, 3 before it finally went over the other end. And I didn't initially see it go over the other end.
And as a Ravens fan, I think he might have had 7 or 8 heart attacks in between the bounce and the going into
wondering why they were
the goalpost.
Wondering why they're struggling against Detroit. Last thing for me on NFL, and then if you want to move on, we can move on to the next stuff.
Sounds good.
Just wanted to say, Justin Fields is the Bears' 36th starting quarterback since the guy that we talked about last show, Jim McMahon, in 1989. It's the second most in the NFL over that span behind the Browns. The Browns, you want to know how many they have?
The Browns?
Yeah, how many?
I would
that
guess.
Laundry list of quarterbacks since the 80s.
Since when? Since the 80s?
Since at least 89.
89. Okay. Browns. I'm gonna go with 33.
So they're more than the Bears, which is at 36. It's 37.
Oh.
They're one more ahead with 37.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not as big of a stat as you think, but it's impressive that since the 80s that neither team can find consistent franchise quarterback.
Justin Fields had a rough day that game too.
Justin Fields had a lot of problems that game.
I really do feel like it'll be just a little bit of time before he's fully ready.
I think Matt Nagy's getting fired soon. I think that's what's happening.
Maybe that might actually be very
You're an
accurate.
offensive guru that can't make a guy with legs.
I'm trying to figure out where the number 1 quarterback of the season. Actually, the number 1 quarterback in NFL history, Andy Dalton. I wonder where is he injured again?
Right now, as it stands, Chicago's injury report reads without him on it. However.
He's in fight for it.
He's fighting for starting quarterback.
Okay.
Right now. So it's between Fields, Dalton, and Foles is now in the picture again.
Welcome back, Foles.
Nagy said that Monday at his practice interview.
Oh.
That's what he said. He said it's 3 quarterbacks, and we'll let you know before game starts.
Well, we'll definitely be keeping up with that topic to see who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Chicago
we can
Bears.
Flip a coin to figure that one out.
Let's switch over. Last topic of the day because we don't have too much more time. Let's go ahead and touch on some Major League Baseball. Zach, if you want to pull up some of those standings, I know you had them not too long ago. I know there's a lot of Braves fans in this country, in this area over here in Tennessee. So I know
not happy right now.
I know some of them are kind of.
So in the American League right now, you've got just for people that have clinched currently. Tampa Bay Rays clinched American League East 97-59 right now. My Baltimore Orioles, unfortunately, are not going to be anywhere near the playoffs this year.
Or next year.
Or for the next few years. For the American League Central, you've got the Chicago White Sox pulling in their gate to be able to catch something there.
The White Sox have
89 and 68.
Season after season have gotten better the past 5 or 6 years. And I have said multiple times, maybe not on camera, but I have talked about the White Sox a couple of times, mentioning that they can be dangerous in certain situations. Playoff time, I don't know if they can hang in there.
Right, and that's the curiosity right now. If they stop having on-field issues of fighting people, maybe they'll actually make it a game. Houston, Seattle, it looks like one of them are gonna end up winning the West for the American League. 91-65 is the win-loss record right now for Houston. Seattle's at 87 wins, 70 losses. It looks like really what's happening with Seattle and Oakland's just fighting for that wild card spot, and Houston's probably going to get that.
Yeah, I think Houston's probably going to take the take that division.
Over the National League, you've got Atlanta Braves, 83 wins, 72 losses. 2.5 games back is Philly, the Phillies,
Man,
good
I
old
hate the
Philadelphia, 81 and 75. I don't see how Atlanta hasn't locked up that East yet.
Well, you say that.
the
You said
National
they're
League.
2.5 games back.
Yeah, 2.5 games
I think
back for
3
Philly.
weeks ago, they were 5 games.
Yep.
The Phillies were 5 games back.
Yeah, Atlanta's
So-
just dropping the ball.
But
against
you
teams
also
not
have
supposed be dropping the ball against.
you also have to give credit to Atlanta because at the beginning of this season, up until the All-Star break, Atlanta was consistently 6 games, 7 games back behind the Mets.
True.
And then the Mets kind of fell off.
The Mets traded everybody away.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
was the thing.
Mets just said, "Give us a whole new team."
The Mets was like, it's a rebuild year.
It's a rebuild.
It's
It's
a-
a rebuild mid-season.
Yeah.
What are we doing here, boys?
They just couldn't hang with Philly, man. I think that's
No,
the
they
thing.
couldn't.
In the National League Central, you've got Milwaukee locking that in with 94 wins, 62 losses. Nobody to really touch there. It looks like St. Louis is going to get the wild card. In the West, you've got 2 clinching right here: San Francisco and the Dodgers.
Man, oh man.
San Fran 102 wins, 54 losses. The Dodgers walk in with 100 wins and 56 losses and will have the wild card, the first wild card spot for the National League, which right now the second spot looks to go to St. Louis Cardinals, who are 5.5 games ahead of Cincinnati Reds. And for the American League, New York is 1 game up on Boston. Boston is currently holding that second spot in the American League wild card race, with Toronto 1 game back and Seattle 1.5 games back.
Well, there's not a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot of time to go into detail about all of the baseball world in the standings right now. But what I will say is that I think for a lot of people, we're all hoping for the Braves to kind of come out of
I think they will.
I think they will too. They should, out of the East being on top. I really feel like it's going to end up being Atlanta and the Dodgers once again to go to the
For the World
to go to the
Series.
World Series. But that's all the time that we have right now. We are going to have to send it off. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will be right back next week for more Crunch Time.
For sure.